Okay, in this lecture, let's move the camera and make it so that we'll have like a third-person view. So I'm going to move our camera, rotate it like this, move it kind of behind, and come into a side view, move it down to about right there, rotate it up, and let's look at it from this view. Let's change some things. We want the ending clipping to be 10,000, that's fine. And we'll make it wider angle at 18 millimeters. Or maybe 25. Alright, I think that's pretty good. And I'm going to zero out the Y angle. So it's like that. And then we want to give it add an object constraint. And it's going to be a child of, and we're going to pick the CG. So you can actually type it in here. CG. And we want to turn off the X and Y rotation. Okay. And the other thing we want to fix while we're here is the steering wheel. We don't have it turning yet, so let's go ahead and set that up like we did for the Duryea. So let me save this, and I'm going to select the steering wheel here, and I'm going to isolate it. So Shift H, and we'll come into a side view, and then zoom in on it. Alright, so our origin's not in the right spot, so let's recalculate that to the volume, and we'll just move our cursor there, Shift S, cursor selected, and I'm going to make sure I'm in my rig collection, and then do Shift A. We're going to make an empty. It's going to be arrows. Let's rotate it. Oops. Rotate it so that it's aligned, or the Z-axis is aligned. That's what we want to do. Like that. Right, and then let's parent our steering wheel to that. Control P. And now let's show everything again. And we want to parent our empty here to our body rigid body. Control P. Alright, so now it should follow along, but it's still not turning because we need to add a driver to our controller here. So to do that, let's take the steering driver. I'm going to turn off all the modeled parts. I'm going to select our front steering motor here. Come into our physics and copy this driver. Then I'm going to paste it into our Z-axis rotation here. Paste. And then we need to edit this. So open in drivers editor. And let's bring that out. And what I want is to delete most of this, thankfully. And we're going to delete everything after rat to ref distance. So let's delete all that. We need to close parentheses, and we're going to multiply it by a scalar. I'm going to do 100. And of course, you can adjust that depending on how much you want the steering wheel to steer. All right, so no errors, that's good. All right, now we need to select our empty and add an object constraint, and it's going to be copy rotation. We're going to pick our controller, uncheck the X and Y. Instead of replace, it's going to be after original, and the owner is going to be local space. So let's see if that works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the model parts. We're going to get our controller. I'm going to reset the simulation, zero out acceleration, and give it some braking, and then we'll mess with the steering here. So make sure to save it and press play. All right. So now if I steer it to the right, it's turning to the left. So we have it backwards, and that's not a big deal. We just need to invert the copy rotation, and that'll be fine. So let's just invert it here, and now it should work. So select our controller, and now it's moving, it's rotating the right direction. All right, so let's try and drive it now. Let's go into our camera view. You can get into there by pressing numpad 0. I'm going to name this camera Follow. Okay. And I'll just, I'm going to turn off the model parts so I can see what's going on. Make sure nothing weird's going on. And I'm going to take off the brake. And maybe I'll make this more like 10. And I'm going to get ready to steer it. Let me reset the simulation. Actually, there we go. All right. And let's try it out. So give it some acceleration. And we'll steer it. Go over the bump, or the ramp, and over the bumps. Yeah, it looks like our suspension's moving pretty well. Oh, looks like some extreme bumps here. I didn't realize those were so tall. We'll need to modify that some, I think. So let's go to here. And I'm going to actually just give it a modifier. I'm going to give it a subdivision modifier. And I think that'll fix the problem we have. So apply that. Come back into our camera. I'm going to reset everything. And Control S. And let's try it out now. Lands, looks good. Goes over those bumps. Let's see how it handles these bumps. Yeah, I mean, looks pretty good. That'd be a really terrible surface to go over. Let's turn it around. And we'll go over this sideways, or at an angle. And that looks good. Let's do a brake test. Looks pretty good. I don't think our brakes are quite strong enough. So let's change that. I'm going to come to the front, subframe. We'll make the brake torque more like 2000. Come to the rear, and we'll make the brake torque 1500. Usually have less braking in the rear. And let's try that out. Oops, braking's at 0. Okay. Let me reset this and go. And let's apply the brake. All right, locked up the front and the rear, so that looks good. Let's put the brake in at 0. We'll try out the parking brake. I'll try and do a parking brake turn here. So I'm going to hit pause, and I'm going to make the acceleration 0. I'm going to make the parking brake 100, and I'll make the steering 100 also. We'll see what that does. And yeah, it does a parking brake turn too. So that looks great. Looks like everything is working. Let's go ahead and bake that, and we'll watch it. Let me turn off the rig, and we'll just watch how this works. Here we go. We're going forward. Then I'm going to hit the brakes. Lock them up. That looked good. Looked good. Come around here, and we're going to do a parking brake turn. And that looks good also. All right.